Okay, in this video we're going to start exploring how to create our own tiles. Now you might want to dive straight in and start drawing your own tiles, and I can understand this, but there are some things you need to know before you can do this. You have to understand how the tiles work in Platform Studio. If you don't understand how these work, you will only be able to make some very basic tiles and not the more impressive tiles that you're all capable of making. So please watch this video carefully and take notice of what's said. So let's start off by looking at the tiles down the left hand side. Let's start off with a spike, which is quite a basic tile. If I click on a spike, I can then put a spike on the Platform Studio game, and you can see it takes up one square. One square is 32 pixels high by 32 pixels wide. Don't worry if you don't remember that. We're going to come back to it a few times in this video because those numbers are quite important. Now we've seen a spike that makes one single image like that. Let's choose something like water. This is different because you can see when you click on water you get two different types of water. So you can put in this type of water, which is one square again, so it fills in one square when you click on it, but you can actually choose a different water as well, which also takes up one square. Let's look at one more tile before we start looking at how these are made. This is the exit. If I put an exit in, you can see it's actually 3 tiles high by 2 tiles wide. So it takes up more space than the other tiles. Right, what I'm now going to do is show you the folder where these tiles are stored. These pictures here are actually all of the different tiles that make up these things on the left hand side. You'll notice that the spike, if we hover over it, says dimensions 32 by 32. So it's 32 pixels wide by 32 pixels high, which is exactly the same size as the squares on Platform Studio. That's why it takes up one square when we put it in. If you look at the exit and hover over that, that is 64 wide by 96 high. So as we know that the tiles are 32, if you times that by 2 it gives you 64. So the exit is going to take up 2 tiles wide. 96 is actually 3 times 32, so that will give you 3 tiles high. So that's why the exit, when you put it on, is 3 tiles high by 2 tiles wide. Now that's not too difficult to get our heads around. This is where it gets a little bit more complicated. If we look at the water, that is actually 64. Just get rid of that. This is actually 64 pixels wide by 32 high. So it's double the width of the spike. So why, when we put water in, does it only take up one tile? I'm going to show you how this works. We're going to go to something called the Tile Set Editor. On the Tile Set Editor, you can see all of the different blocks. If we go to the spike, we'll start with that again. This is a very simple tile. Look at the size for the spike. The height is 32 and the width is 32. So this tells Platform Studio how big that spike should be. So it's made it the right size for one square. And we know that the image is 32 by 32 as well, so this is the right size. Look at this bit here though, section height by section width. That is also 32. If we go to the water, you'll notice that the height is 32 and the width is 64, which is the size of the image in the folder. So you can see here 64 wide by 32, like we saw earlier. 64 wide by 32 high. If you look at the section height and section width though, they are both 32, which is the size of a square. What that tells Platform Studio is to split that image, which is 64 wide, into tiles which are 32 by 32. So if you halved 64, you'd actually get 2 tiles. That's why when you look at the water over here where the cursor is, you can see that the tile is split in 2. You get 2 different types of water from the one image. Let's look at the blocks at the start. If I come out of this and click on blocks, you can see there are lots of different types of blocks to choose from. If we look in the folder, you can see that this one image includes all of those different blocks, and it's 128 pixels by 128 pixels. If we go to the tileset editor now, you can see that the height is 128 and the width is 128. That's the size of the picture. But the section height and width are again 32 by 32. So it splits that big picture into squares which are 32 by 32. That's why you get all of these different squares in that picture to choose from. So when you're making your own tiles, if you want something like the spike which just has one picture, you're going to make a tile which is 32 by 32, and you'll make the section height and width 32 by 32. If you want something that has more than one option, like the water, then you're going to do the same as we've got here. You're going to make an image which is 64 wide, but you'll split it into squares of 32 by having the section height and width set to 32 here. So hopefully that makes sense. If it doesn't, it'll take a little bit of experiment. It's quite hard to get your head around, and I realise that, you know, it's been quite a long explanation because it's quite a difficult thing to explain. The last thing I'm going to explain to you on this video is the transparent colour. You can see here that alongside where it says transparent colour, it's got a purple. If we look at the different tiles in here, you can see the background on each of them is purple. That means that that colour, that purple, will be transparent. So if you look at this grass, for example, we've got the grass at the bottom with purple sky above it. But if we look on Platform Studio and put the grass in, the grass is actually transparent. That's because it knows that that purple colour is transparent and needs to be see-through. In the next video I'll show you how to make your tiles and where to find some templates which will help you.